Says uniting those oppressed will give them a louder voice.
And we're going to continue to be a voice for the voiceless.
No justice!
No justice!
No peace!
No racist!
Police!
As I close, I encourage us to not take this as a moment and make it a movement.
So at this point, we're not asking, we're demanding.
You are a lousy city council, you're lousy mayor.
When she was living, and she's now even more so now that she's transitioned.
Her family and friends still looking for answers. A cause of death has not been.
We don't have repercussions. So that repercussion, that consequence is that as a community, we have a right to say enough's enough.
The shutdown Fremont Street March is slated for Martin Luther King Jr. Day. Organizers expect thousands to attend.
It's going to take to get the ball rolling, to send a message that we're not going to take this no more. We want love and peace in our communities now. So be it.
My name is Vishelle Antoinette Sanders, and I am the mother of Minister Van Stretch Sanders. I became pregnant with twins in 94, and they were born in 95. During that journey, I have a daughter, and she's 5 years older than them, so I always compare the story because I gained like 60 pounds with my daughter during that pregnancy, but I only gained 25 pounds with Vaughn and Vance. And so at birth, they were 8 pounds 6 ounces Vaughn was, and Vance was 7 pounds 6 ounces. Born at Bernard Mitchell Hospital in Chicago. And at the time of their birth, I was told that they were the largest twins in that hospital history. And so it really didn't sink in until after I brought them home, and they were like these extra large babies that were, you know, just like different from everyone else's babies. I know twins that weren't even 8 pounds together. So I just knew in my heart that these boys were gonna be something different and something special, and I was right.
We come from Chicago, so as you can imagine, we deal with a lot of confrontation, but we always dealt with it with each other. So just having each other back, being a good brother. When we was kids, we always been leaders. So as kids, we had like a little crew, and I don't want to mention the name of it, but that's gonna come out in the book. Just being a stand-up dude, never been a follower, never fell for peer pressure, things like that. A lot of things that I fell for, he didn't fall for.
My name's Kendall Sanders. I am 26 years old. I was born and raised in Las Vegas, Nevada, and I graduated from Southwest Technical Academy. So Stretch and I met through a mutual friend of ours. We actually met at a graduation party of another mutual friend. The first time I met him, our friend introduced us to each other, and I thought he was super cute during that time, and I told her oh, who's your friend? I'd love to get to know him. And she says, oh, that's Stretch. He's really big in the community. He's really awesome. He does a lot of service, but he actually has a girlfriend, a long-time girlfriend. And I actually told her, oh, okay, well, I'm gonna marry him. That's my husband. And she looked at me and she was like, you're crazy. You don't even know him. You don't know anything about him. And I was like, okay, that's fine. So I waited. I kind of just left it at what it was. I saw events that he was doing in the community and ways that I myself could get involved. And then a few months later, that same friend is the one who told me that he was single again. So the day I found out, I literally asked him if he wanted to go to dinner. And so now here we are.
Minister Stretch Sanders and I met roughly about 2 years ago. I would like to say about 2 years ago. We actually, as you guys are aware of, we have a show called Breakdown on Power 88. Shout out to Power 88. And of course, Minister Stretch Sanders was doing some very great things, profound things in the community. I bleed 89106. I bleed and breathe 89106. And so I saw this young brother. He came onto the show initially. I saw what he was doing in the community. He came onto the studio. I'm very proud of his advocacy. Now, of course, I'm 52 years young. My parents, we've been pillars in this community, 89106, and my father has been on the front line. So we come from a civil rights family of civil rights and getting it right. And so a lot of things that I saw in Minister Stretch, I had seen in myself back in my early stages of my life, with my father being who he is and my mother being who she is, and the advocacy that the Collins family brought to the city of Las Vegas, primarily West Las Vegas.
I actually met Minister Stretch. I was hearing about him. I was hearing a buzz that we had a young Malcolm on the scene, and so I wanted to meet him. I'm the host MC of a Shepherd's Breakfast. I'm also a former son of the Great Evergreen Missionary Baptist Church. And so our paths crossed, and after our paths crossed, I became a fan. And once I became a fan of his work, I wanted to serve as a friend, as a big brother. I'm older than him, but we're peers. And so I really got to know him by becoming a fan of his courage. You don't meet a lot of people in our circles that have the courage that he has.
I met Minister Stretch when he was about 18 years old. He was this young fireball activist wannabe in the community. I said, who's this youngster talking about power to the people? Does he even know what the power, was he even born? What does he know about this? And so I met him at the West Las Vegas Cultural Arts Center. We were out doing some work in the community, and he was very curious about African culture, and he's been stalking me ever since.
Hello, my name is Karina, and this is my husband, LaMelvin Dockett. A little bit about us. We've been living in Vegas for about 5 years now. We've been doing things inside the community, following around different organizations, and just trying to, I guess, make a difference in the Black community. I met Stretch at, a demonstration that was going on, and I just noticed he was just out there being goofy, kind of leading the way. And then I seen that he was going to run for mayor, and so I reached out to see how I can help with his campaign. For myself, I felt like it was necessary to have, you know, a young, fresh mind and somebody who wasn't so embedded in politics. And so I felt like he had a good vision, he knew where he was going, and it was revolutionary. And plus, we were making history, so why not? You know, Stretch was the youngest person running for mayor in Las Vegas. And I just felt like not being attached to a political party, we were able to do more things.
I have been involved in the local Las Vegas community active scene probably about 2 years, and then got involved with Showing Up for Racial Justice and saw a post about an event that was happening, and it was in the street, walking, marching, protesting police brutality. And we came to that, and I saw a very large person, very tall, can't miss him in a crowd, and was listening to him and thought, wow, this is a very dynamic speaker. I want to meet him, and I want to thank him for putting a voice and a face and a movement around the needs of this community.
I met Minister Stretch at a protest when I was 17 in the summer of 2016. So this was before I was a senior. So I was in crutches, but I was hobbling along there. It was for, I want to believe, after the murders of Philando Castile and Alton Sterling. So I was there. I was kind of in the background of things because, you know, I was a little slower being that I was in crutches. I had knee surgery that summer. However, you know, I heard Stretch speak, you know what I'm saying? He had such great projection, such great charisma, and very poignant with what he said. And I was very, you know, inspired and motivated, and I, you know, said, you know, I wanted to be able to connect and meet this guy. I got a chance to speak, and that's always a funny story that the two of us have because, you know, seeing where I was there versus where I'm now is, you know, it's light and day, but the spirit is still alive. So I've just always been blessed to, you know, have that experience with Minister Stretch, and, you know, look forward to many more in the future because we've had quite a lot.
I kind of saw the vision before I met Stretch. I really wasn't active in the community. I really didn't speak out on issues that pertain to Black people. I was just kind of you know, living, being young, and kind of unbothered by what was going on in society. But once I met Stretch, he kind of gave me a different perspective and kind of helped me understand that even though that I was young, that my voice still mattered and that I could still do things in the community. And so I kind of just really fell in love with that idea, and I wanted to start to use my platform to speak out on the injustices. And I just felt that it was a good way for me to get more people involved that may not have thought about it before the same way he did for me. So I just wanted to give other people that same opportunity.
My name is Abdullah Umar Hassan. My friends call me Chef. Minister Stretch have a very dynamic personality that's so is so beautiful that you would just love being around him, because he represents something that too many youth, especially our young men, don't understand, and that's loving yourself and having discipline to change the world. You know, and it takes discipline, it takes honesty, it takes integrity, it takes sincerity, and that's some of the things we represent as Muslims. So it's just like even though our religion is different, but our directions are basically the same. Love for all mankind, and especially those who are being suppressed and ill-treated.
My name is Antoine Moore, and I basically have my own company, and my brand is called Sneaker Gods. And basically, we're a brand for not just the people. We go out into the communities, teach people how to build jobs within their communities. Basically, my cousin was getting ready to graduate, and we all went to the graduation, and on the way back, you know, at all the graduations, they have a little party, a little get-together, and that's where I met Stretch at. We met, shook hands, hugged, as we normally do, and from there, he was telling me, like, oh, you Antoine? And I was like, yeah, in the flesh. So as I met him and we started talking, he was telling me about some of the things that he wanted to do. First.
So today we're at Canyon Springs High School to convene for our second year Peace Rat. I don't say second annual because we're going to do this from May all the way to September. So down this way, there's some people that's getting ready to pull in right here. And so we're getting ready to start welcoming some folks. This is beautiful, and this don't happen all the time. You know, I've been rocking with Otis. We've been down for almost 4 or 5 years now, and he can tell you this is something this is history. But everything we seem to do, we're going to basically do a parade. We're going to meet up here in a few minutes. We're going to drive down to the famous Dr. King statue. The purpose of today is to instill some peace in our community, not just in our community from a local standpoint, but from a national standpoint. We're going to make sure that we're sending justice for Ahmaud Arbery and justice for those who have been abused by the hands of officers abusing their power, and justice for those who've lost a loved one to a next door neighbor, or a gentleman down the street, or a person that they didn't know who chose to take their life. It's about us coming together as a people and as various organizations and communities and races to say enough's enough for violence, period. Many of us been quarantined. Come on, y'all silent. Come on now. We've been not being involved in the community. Let's just keep it real. So hopefully this quarantine has got you to understand how precious life is and how important it is for you to get out, leave your church, leave your mosque, leave your synagogue, leave your home, and get out here and put some work in this community. People talk about they putting in work. I don't see it. So people often ask me, how did a kid from Chicago play ball for a little bit, had fun, end up being one of the most active, most vocal, and probably will go down in history as one of the greatest revolutionaries in Las Vegas? I would say that I never really thought about it like that. And when I look at this book, it brings back so many memories, because this is October 1st when the city was attacked. I was the first person to host a visual along with my group, All Shades United. As you can see, we had the biggest. It was over 3,000 people. This is us storming into the DA's office to protest killings of unarmed black and brown people. This is us doing some protesting, some barbecues we're known for just doing. And this book just really blesses me. Oh, this is a really good one. This is when we stormed in the mayor's city council meeting and pretty much just went off on the system for how they have not indicted the officers that killed Tashi Brown Farmer. And then this is one of my favorite. This is some pictures of us giving out food with the Lean On Me Project, which was a survival program that we started with ASU. And to me, that's really what Minister Stretch is about. I'm about serving, I'm about giving, because as Jesus did, he gave food, you know, he gave wisdom, he gave knowledge. And so that's one of the greatest things about my legacy. This is me on the radio with Power 88, which is the radio station that kind of gave me my start as far as being outspoken through the airways and through media. And this is a really special day. This is when I led over 300 people into the street to protest the killing of Tashi Brown Farmer by Las Vegas Metro Officer Kenneth LaPera. It's so historic because we were arrested, placed in jail for 10 hours. 2 days later, Kenneth LaPera was fired. Now, many may say, Minister Stretch, do you think that's because of what you guys did? And I would say, hell to the yeah. And so I'm proud of that moment. And then this is another one. And so most of these pictures are repetitive, and basically what you get is me speaking out, me being vocal. It's a danger, it's a scare tactic to it, because at the end of the day, my life has been in danger since I was 21 years old. And when you're 21 and state officials tell you that you're the new leader of Black Las Vegas, that's a lot of pressure. Because when most of my friends was 21, they was in the club. When I was 21, I was getting arrested out the Venetian Hotel. And so I've been banned out of 3 hotels. We stormed in Mandalay Bay in the casino. I was banned out of the Venetian. And because of the Venetian owned some property like by Treasure Island, I was banned out of there as well. And I don't let that really faze me, because I believe that we have to sacrifice to bring change. And so I'm really proud to know that I had an urge, and the urge wasn't to be this big revolutionary. The urge was I just wanted to get involved. And by getting involved, I have created a lot of enemies as well as a lot of supporters. You know, I don't have any enemies in my heart for anybody, but I do understand that when you start shaking things up as people describe me to be and to do, it's going to create a lot of tension. I'm also a minister, which makes me very unique, because a lot of pastors are afraid to speak the truth that I speak, is because they're scared to lose congregations. Well, I don't have a church. I'm not a pastor. I'm a youth pastor, but I'm not afraid about getting kicked out of a church, because if I do, I'll just start my own. And then this is Thanksgiving with the People, another proud event we do with All Shades. This is our 3rd annual. This year will be our 5th annual, where we rent restaurants and we pretty much give out food to the entire community. And there's 2 sides of me. The first side is I believe in race first. I believe in black power. I believe in black liberation. But there's also another side of me where I believe in solidarity amongst all races. And so I've been able to unite people who would have never been in the same space. I've had the Nation of Islam standing next to the Sunni Muslims, who's standing next to Bloods and Crips, who are standing next to the 100 Black Men and Masons and Hebrew Israelites. And so I've been fortunate through several events I created, one being the 1,000 Black Men Gathering, the 1,000 Black Women Gathering, and just so many other cultural events I've created in the city. And I've been blessed to honestly do probably between 50 to 70 events a year, big and large, you know, being able to speak to thousands of people with the same message, and that's to get involved and that you have power. And the funny thing with me is I get accused of being arrogant a lot. And that's because I'm confident. And it doesn't bother me. When I was younger, it bothered me because I didn't know my power and my worth. But now I'm older, I've learned that I have a right to say I'm proud the fact that I've organized 30 plus events a year or 60 a year. And people will say, well, if you do the work, why talk about it? I talk about it because my life could be taken doing the work. And so if I have to die doing the work, you better believe I'm going to talk about it. And Donald Trump, you know, he's a fruit of a tree. So we can't just get mad at the crop. We got to get mad at what produced it. And America's producing this type of hate in Donald Trump. You know, he's a fruit of a tree. So we can't just get mad at the crop. We got to get mad at what produced it.
I never knew that this man was going to be this man that I see today. So when I met him, he said he wanted to play basketball. And I was like, oh, okay, you have the height, so of course you're going to do this. So I was like, basically before you start doing it, you must put some weight on. So he's like, yeah, I definitely going to start doing that. So as time went on, he told me that he was going, I got a phone call out of nowhere. And he was like, I like how you get my number. He's like, from your cousin. I was like, oh, okay. So from there, he told me that he was thinking about being into going to the neighborhoods, being an activist. I was like, okay. And I was like, okay, I'll just see you. And then from that point, 5 years later, this man standing in front of me is shaking the world up as we speak. And I applaud this man every time I talk to him because he's doing such a great job. And this is this man's Stretch. As I thought that was going to be the big-time basketball player is now the activist that we call Stretch Sanders.
Minister Stretch came out. He was on the line. He went to the match and asked the imam in regards to the imam. Told him, "Come out and get food," because we knew what he was doing was really for the help and the betterment of the community. And he went out and passed out toilet paper. Him and his beautiful wife. And I'm so proud of them because they are a beacon of light here in Las Vegas that was barely needed. Not just coming from the Muslims, because we do so much work, but it's coming from a young brother of that caliber. It's really made us feel very, very warm toward him.
I would probably say just a feeling that it made me feel inside. Like, it made me feel like I was seen, that I mattered, that I was important. It kind of just gave me a better perspective of myself. Being biracial, sometimes you find it hard to feel where you fit in. And I felt like I finally felt my identity and was really opening to my blackness. So the scariest moment that him and I have experienced together is kind of hard to pinpoint because Stretch is not necessarily scared in the line of work that he does. I mean, if anything, I'm scared for him. There are things that are intimidating, but he knows what he was called to do, and he does it regardless of whatever situation it can put him in. I think for me personally, just knowing that, like, protest and fighting for human rights, like, those things in themselves can be scary. I've never had a specific incident yet. Maybe close to that was when he did the Nipsey Hussle vigil here. I was really nervous for that because there was talk of, like, gang activity that was going to be happening and potential shootings. So because of that, I was really intimidated for him to go and actually lead that event. But so far, we have been extremely blessed. There have been, I mean, definitely threats here and there, but I feel like that comes with
the line of work.
Minister Stretch happens to be an Ibeji, which is a twin. And in African culture, Ibeji are special blessings to the African community. There are ceremonies, there are rituals, there are dances, there are songs specifically for Ibeji twins. And when you see Ibeji together, you will get a special ashe, which is a blessing if you give them money. The reason why you would like to give Ibeji money is because there's a thing called Ire, which is, again, ashe, which is blessing, long life. And so when you see Ibeji, you give them that wealth, money. We all like money. So when you give them that ashe, they, in return, give it to you back.
The most courageous act, to no stretch, there really isn't an act. The most courageous thing about Minister Stretch is him being Minister Stretch. Right now, he is the odd one. He is the one who is revolutionary. He's the one who's taking the teachings of Christ, and he's not using just the passive side of Christ. So he's the one right now that's willing to flip over tables. And so to watch him move in such a courageous spirit, seeing that when I think of like Dr. King, he's a decade younger than they are, but yet he's willing to stand in the shoes they stood in. So every day you see him do something, and it's almost like, and I don't want to overpaint the picture, but it's almost like watching Jordan when Jordan first came on the scene. Each game he did something better than the last. And that's how his ministry is.
I liked about Minister Stretch was his advocacy and his willing to serve unconditionally and undeniably, because again it reflected a lot, and see, it reflected a lot of my childhood and what we actually did in the early days, because my father was also a sitting assemblyman back in 1979-80. He was in the legislature, and so again the reason why he was a coach in the community, and then he saw some of the atrocities that were going on, discriminatory practices going on, and so he got into politics. And so as a part of him getting into politics, a lot of what we had to do is go out on the front line and actually fight for the injustices of a lot of people in West Las Vegas. And so when I met Minister Stretch Sanders and I saw him doing what I had already done as a young man, and for him to have the interest as a young man to be able to advocate and fight for people's right.
We had two different experiences coming from Chicago. He kind of had one experience, I had my own, so he never took anything personal. And that's the number one thing that I want the world to just realize, that certain things not personal, it's just about the people, the well-being of the people. Because with me, I don't always feel that way. If I see someone doing something that's, going to affect us a certain kind of way, I have a certain kind of feeling towards them that he does not have. He still has love towards them, which is almost impossible for some people to have. So I feel like just having love towards people and loving people that it's hard to love sometimes. That's what I think I could take from it.
In Chicago, I always had a certain image of what I wanted my family to be and our lifestyles to be, and I didn't feel like we were able to live up to that. I had them in a private school for the majority of the grammar school time because they weren't doing well in public school. The public school system, to me, was not designed to fit what my children were able to do. So I put them in a private school, which was a Christian school, and it was a very good school for them. I'm very grateful for that. But when it came to the high school portion, I wasn't able to afford the tuition. So I tried to put them in public schools in Chicago, and it was a total disaster because of the fact that they were so special. They were not received properly, and I wanted something better for them. So I started researching schools that had higher graduation rates and less crime or less gang activity. And Vegas, surprisingly, was one of the top. I say surprisingly because the education system here is known for not being that good, but I can honestly say it worked for mine, and I'm very grateful. So I set out in 2010 to make plans to move here. I based the apartment search on the location of the school, I enrolled them in Las Vegas high school here, and we moved to Vegas the following year, which was March 7th of 2011, and we've been here ever since.
We're doing things different, you know, we're going against the grain, and clearly with me being his wife, I would think that, you know, he has to go out there and not only support me, but also support, you know, what I'm doing and who I believe in and who I trust in. And so I think it's only, you know, right that he would go out there and, you know, try to support, put his life on the line for this movement. Because we were 10 toes down, you know, with the business, I guess you can say. We were different from other organizations because we can rep where we're from. You know, we can be radical, quote unquote. You know, we have a freedom of speech, and there's not nobody basically on our coattail telling us what we can and cannot do. And we're for the people. And we go out there, put in the work, and, you know, actually be about what we say we're going to be about.
So what would make me want to join a group called All Shades United? First thing I would have to answer that is to say, what would not make me want to join a group that is called that, right? That is the thing that we need in this world and we need in this society. But I'm also not a person who would just join a group. I have to investigate the group. I have to research them. I have to know not only where do they stand, but where do they sit. And what I mean by that is, you know, what do they say is one thing, but what do they do is a whole other thing. And so after doing some investigation, I'm looking and saying, wow, here's a young man who started this group, and not only are they doing things or saying things, but they're doing things. They're going out and helping in the community. They're bringing water to people in the summer. They're bringing clothing. They're raising awareness. And that's something that I want to be a part of. And it was after being at a few events together that I said, I don't know if I approached Stretch or Stretch approached me, and I said, I want to be in this group. And that was, you know, kind of what brought me into that.
You know, truthfully, I wanted to join All Shades United because, like I said, I had such a positive first experience, you know, in meeting Minister Stretch Sanders, and from there on out, he, you know, became a big brother to me. And being that I was, you know, young, and I mean, I'm still young, but being that I was much younger then, and, you know, really, you know, trying to enlighten and shape my perspectives and wisen my mind, I felt that, you know, to be around someone who also was younger and also was near my age, that was talking and speaking and doing, you know what I'm saying? Because, you know, talk is great, but when you have actions behind it, it means much more. To be able to have that in totality, but someone that was around my age, it was really inspiring and motivating, because I kind of felt like I was alone in my passions and things that I was really, you know, trying to take a stand on. So I just felt compelled, like.
Thousands of people made their way to historic West Las Vegas for a different sort of event tonight. Thank you for joining us at 11. I'm Brian Loftus.
And I'm Denise Valdez. It was called the We Deserve to Live rally, and it happened at Kionga Isoki Palacio Park, which used to be known as Doolittle Park. 8 News Now reporter Joe Moeller is there with more on tonight's event. Joe?
Good evening to you too. Yeah, this event wrapped up around 9 o'clock just a few hours ago. This was different than the protests we've covered throughout the week. This was about a conversation, having a conversation and finding solutions to the problems. Now, the organizer did not call this a protest today. The goal was to stand up against police brutality and systemic racism in our country. Reverend Stretch Sanders, who created the event, even talked about possible legislation to help hold law enforcement accountable when it comes to the use of force. He said this wasn't the first step in finding solutions, and it won't be the last.
Today's time and place is about us coming together, hearing some messages that's gonna wake us up. That's right. Cause I don't know about y'all, but I'm tired of being scared and being asleep and not really understanding what it's going to take for us to come together as a people and as people to change our communities and our conditions.
Speakers talked for a few hours and some petitions were circulating. A vigil was also held for George Floyd and others who have lost their lives. One speaker we also talked to said George Floyd changed the world and has a lot more people noticing the problems our country faces. Overall, this event was very peaceful. The organizer says this whole event will hopefully unify the community. Reporting live in historic West
Boulevard and Revere Street, and some of the people who live in this neighborhood say they cannot get to the store by themselves, so a Las Vegas minister is bringing the store to them.
It's been very hard for me personally. I've been laid off.
Everybody needs something at some point in time, even the toiletries.
Just a hard time getting stuff. Stuff's not on the shelves and stuff, so we have a little bit, but not much.
Enter Minister Stretch Sanders with New Era Las Vegas.
We are the first responders of the hood, so we don't sit down.
When grocery stores started selling out of toilet paper and hand sanitizer, Minister Stretch began handing out those very items to people who can't get it themselves.
Our seniors, single mothers, those who don't have transportation, and there are those who may be able to get in a vehicle to go to the store, but economically they can afford to spend $100 on groceries.
Minister Stretch and his wife Kendall are using community donations to pay for the goods they hand out, but getting those goods has been just as hard for them as it has for everyone else.
It's a pretty rigorous process. You have to get up super early in the morning if you want to be able to get stores that are freshly stocked. So we have been up since 6 a.m.
Sometimes going to several stores to get everything the community needs, including toilet paper and food.
Peanut butter and jelly, soup, things like that. Just some things to stick to the ribs, hold you down for a few days.
We came by the other day. He brought us a box of canned goods and other toiletries and stuff, and what he's doing is very great for this community.
I appreciate it. I wasn't able to get any tissue, but I did today. It means the world to me. I think it was a humbling gesture for him and his wife to come out into the community and do the things that they did. They didn't have to do it. God put it upon their heart.
Minister Stretch told me that storing some of the items that he's bringing out to the communities is starting to become a challenge, so he's looking for a church or a community center that
Get on the sidewalk, Roy. Get off. Get off. Let them go. 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 We go. Hey, baby double OG.
So let's say, what is our lives to you? We can get killed at any time and you're just going to get away with it?
I don't believe that I'm a one-man island. I believe I've been blessed with a beautiful, fortunate team, a supportive wife, a supportive mother, supportive siblings, supportive friends, supportive organizations that help kind of gear me in the right direction as a voice. But at the same token, I have to give me my pat on the back because many don't. And that's a lot of what's causing many activists to stop, because they don't take in what they've done. And when I think about the fact that my life can be killed doing the work I do, I have to combat that negative with positive and think about the fact that, yes, I can be killed, but look at all the lives you touch at 25 years old. You know, I was the youngest in the history of Las Vegas to run for mayor. And when I applied, the clerk said, well, actually, you're not the youngest because somebody in Henderson was the youngest. Well, joke's on her because Henderson's not Las Vegas. It's two different cities. And so we were proven right that my campaign made history. And it's things like that. And it's nothing to brag about, but it's the fact that that's a huge accomplishment. That at 25 years old, I've done more than most people put together. You know, and I say that humble, but I say that proud because I know that that wasn't part of the plan. My mother moved us out here to be productive, probably finish college, start families, not to be what they consider the next Martin Luther King or the next Malcolm X. Those are badges I wear with honor. And so when I go through this book and think about my life and my legacy, I'm proud to know that at 25 years old, I've done most of the people in their 40s. And I hope that, you know, my lasting legacy, you know, at a young person is that I'm inspiring other young people to get involved, you know, and that they have power. It's never about me just taking the shine myself. It's about others knowing, you have the same capability, you know, and I think many in Las Vegas are afraid to speak the truth I speak and to stand. But my message is take that stand. Don't be afraid to sacrifice anything, because I've lost jobs, I've lost relationships, I've lost dynamics, and that's a small component to the work, because the prize is bigger than the price I could ever pay. And, you know, and I've gained, numerous friendships. I can call a Donna Street Crip, but I can also call a state senator. Many can't do that. So I know that, you know, I am indeed the truth. To God be all the glory. And I'm just grateful to just be Minister Stretch Sanders, you know, stretching for a revolution in Sin City.
He tells me all the time that he's thankful for me being in his life. And I tell him I'm thankful for you even wanting me to be in your life. Because at the end of the day, it takes two kings and two gods to make this happen. We all are one. But at the same time, we have to, in order for us to become what we want to become, we have to have like-minded people around us. And I just like the fact that he calls me and I calls him, and we interact and we build, and that's what we're supposed to do. Basically, because we was the first one on this planet. So, and we are God. We are of Him. So we are that person. So I just say of that spirit. So that's why I think it's comfortable that he's now starting to understand it. I just feel as though he wasn't aware of what his potential was under the name, what the name means. Because it's just not a name. It's God in itself. It's about just serving your people. That's what he was doing. So that's us, of black people. That's what we do. We serve the people, and that's what we're supposed to do. And I see, and what I saw of him today, that's what he's doing, and that's why he's a God. That's how we all are gods.
I feel like even like working together, like our friendship has really been super important to me in my life. We do have a lot of inside jokes and such, but like just knowing Stretch as a good person and the type of man that he is, I would say probably being out in the streets and protesting with him is probably some of my favorites, because he just really takes control of the crowd. He knows how to keep everybody calm, keep everyone peaceful, and kind of keep everybody hopeful. So that's probably my favorite.
What I enjoy the most about working with Minister Stretch is, I would say, his youthfulness mixed with his, I guess, old man mind mentality. You don't get that from a lot of people, you know. He just has an old spirit. He's like an owl, I guess, in a sense, but, you know, he still jokes around, dances around, makes a little fool of himself. Yeah, my kids call him Cat in the Hat.
Well, I feel he is already a global leader. So to add on to that, I feel he can just keep doing everything he's doing, because I feel like a man should be judged off of his actions. People don't remember what you do, they remember how you make them feel. So the feeling he gives people when they see him be courageous and stand up, because he does a lot of things on his own, and he doesn't get the support that he needs. So I feel like the idea that I have is just getting better support and actual support, because people might come around, but their hair is not in it. So that's what I think. The revolution will not be televised, so the things that I will say, I'm not going to say on camera. And the things that he's not going to say, his heart doesn't put in him to say it. It's not that he just doesn't want to say it. He doesn't have that kind of heart. He has a pure heart, where some people might not have it like that. So to give you an example, if a person makes a threat to me, I'm not going to match it with a threat. I'm not going to match with anything, actually. I'm going to pray about it. And with him, he's going to act as if it doesn't exist. So can't really say.
Max, thanks. You know, as family members seek answers, some members of our community say they are hoping to seek justice as well. Watch.
You know, the family's asking for justice. The community of Las Vegas is standing behind that family, with that family, asking for the same thing. I'm Byron Williams. My brother's Byron Williams. You know what I'm saying? It's like, this is a brother that we all could relate. That could have been me.
Provide resources, deal with the root, not the fruit.
Minister Stretch Sanders, along with other faith leaders and activists from the Valley and across the country, are planning a massive march here in Las Vegas. They'll be speaking out against a recently passed ordinance that makes it illegal for the homeless to sleep on the street if there's a bed available at a shelter.
This is a first step. We wanted to do something. We've been waiting 20 years.
Mayor Carolyn Goodman says this new ordinance will help the homeless, not harm them, giving them access to resources.
Protesters say that's a start, but they don't want to see this officer on a paid vacation.
The police showed the videos. They said Tashi Farmer was innocent, and they said this rear naked choke was wrong. But the case is still under investigation.
If we just say, well, let's not do anything, you know, Metro deserves kudos because they released videos. I mean, that's not good enough because Tashi's still deceased. He treated him differently because he was a black man.
The headline in the LA Times was this: a white police officer kills an unarmed black man, and in Las Vegas, there are no protests.
I am Tashi. I am his family.
This weekend, that headline becomes outdated.
Our lives never matter. You know, so the slogan was supposed to be a rallying cry, but as you can see, our lives are still not mattering. So it's a sad situation, but like I said, we're not surprised because we know how it goes.
Minister Stretch Sanders says that's the whole problem. People shouldn't be afraid to protest. People shouldn't have to assume this officer will get off, and people shouldn't assume this case will be swept under the rug.
Until we put the pressure, they will get off. We have this conception that police terrorism doesn't really exist in Las Vegas, but it does.
He also doesn't like the way Metro talked about the victim. The picture they used was an old booking photo, and they broadcast his criminal history, even if it didn't have anything to do with this case.
Of course, it was because he was black. I don't say brutality because it's past being brutal. It's terrorism.
Issue that some call unjust.
Shutting down.
Shut down.
Fremont Street.
Fremont Street. A rallying cry to disrupt downtown business.
Some of us will be arrested through civil disobedience, meaning we're going to stop traffic, we're going to stop the flow of Fremont Street.
Activists get ready to take a stand against the new homeless ordinance. It makes camping or sleeping on the streets around the downtown area a misdemeanor if beds at shelters are available. It's in effect now, but won't be enforced until February 1st.
In order for us to bring forth change, we have to hit them in the pockets. So since they're trying to protect downtown.
My name is Miranda O'Neill, and I have a message I need to share with you. Please take the time to hear what I have to say and understand the context is that myself, my family, and my community are afraid for their lives right now. I understand the risk I am taking by reaching out this way, but I am fortunate to still be alive to do so. Is Las Vegas a community that values material goods above human life? What real difference is there between protesters being pelted with rubber bullets up against a wall and civil rights protesters of the past being hosed down? Is it more devastating that property is being destroyed or that people are in the street getting killed like dogs by the only way we can move forward as a nation is for the nation to speak out loudly against injustice at the hands of our own government officials. This phenomenon is not new, nor is it unique to our country. Common people have exhibited the courage to stand up against an oppressive police state. Our Constitution protects our right to assemble due process. This type of response should be the absolute last resort to control a situation. God forbid they're first. As soon as the sun was down, we were aggressed by the police force. It seemed as if it never mattered how we behaved. The plan was always to attack us. It was demonstrated just last month that police are capable of responding nonviolently. When white people protesting the lockdown, armed with rifles, marched on government property, they were not met with gas or rubber bullets, but lauded by the president as brave individuals fighting for their rights. Black Americans have been heartbroken and hopeless for change. To wake up and not hear about another unarmed individual committing suicide and handcuffed in the back of a police car. We are desperate to not see excuses like he had a pre-existing condition when we watched Officer Derek Chauvin put his full weight on George Floyd's neck for nearly 9 minutes in broad daylight as 3 other cops stood by. Tamir Rice was only 12 years old when police pulled onto a park pavilion, shooting him the instant they exited the video. If you have not heard of this case or seen this video, I encourage you to watch it. It will be painful and uncomfortable, but nothing compared to the senseless loss of that boy's life or the suffering it's caused his family.
The officers responsible are not in prison, but in fact still working in different cities. Unfortunately, murderers often get set up in different precincts, facing no consequences, and profit more from their destruction. If these men are allowed back onto the streets, nobody is safe. Law enforcement has a responsibility to its citizens to protect and serve, but this does not apply equally to all. I don't know how difficult it will be to get this message to you, but I am certain I will not stop until a dialogue is opened. This is the greatest civil rights issue in our country right now, and this is the moment to decide what side of history you will be on. The world is watching. Thank you for your time.
So the day I got arrested, what can I remember about that day? Well, I remember that the plan was not for us to go to jail. We've done civil disobedience, which is getting in the street, at least 10 times before that. But what made that different was we ended up basically getting snatched when we was on the sidewalk. They were irritated, the police, because we kept playing like cat and mouse, get in the street, when they come, get out the street, when they go away, get in the street. And about the fourth cat and mouse, they was like, we finna get this mouse.
So we got arrested together a couple of years ago because a situation happened in Las Vegas on the Strip at the Venetian, where a young man named Tashi Farmer Brown was wrongfully killed, well, not wrongfully killed, but killed by the police in Las Vegas in broad daylight. He was tased 7 times and put in an illegal chokehold. And this had happened it happened on Mother's Day. And Mother's Day is a week from my birthday every year. And we found out about it after it happened. So what happens in Vegas does stay in Vegas because a lot of the residents weren't even aware of what happened. So basically, they called Stretch out over social media, kind of like man gets killed on Strip and Las Vegas does nothing, and they kind of tagged him like, what are you going to do? So he came into me and basically told me that we were going to plan to do this march and possibly block the street. And I had mixed views about that. But as a mother of 2 black men, it's very devastating.
How do I deal with threats and the violence that comes with being an activist? To not be rhetorical, I deal with it as any twin brother would deal with it. I take it very personally, and I internalize it because a lot of people know him for being one way, but they don't know me, and they don't know anything about me. So I just pray for those who make threats. That's how I deal with it.
Being married to a revolutionary is definitely something that I never pictured for myself. I actually didn't know a lot of things until I started dating Stretch, and so being married to him has definitely been an adventure, to say the least. I think that it's really hard for people to understand that he's still a person. We haven't been married that long. It's been a year and a few months now, and it's kind of hard just being able to balance having him at home and who that person is to me, because at home I call him Vance because he's my husband, but to the community he's Stretch, he's Minister Stretch. So it gets really hard being able to find the balance, especially because his line of work and his calling is dangerous. And so that's another difficult aspect, I guess you could say, of being married to a revolutionary, is constantly having to wonder, on top of the fact that he's already a black man, but now he's even more in the spotlight. So I constantly have to think about, is he okay? Who's going to come to this event? What kind of event is he planning? So that can be kind of stressful. I think the biggest thing I can do as his wife to help push his message is to support him in the way that he receives support. So not necessarily in the way that I want to support him, but if he wants me to be at these events and be active and be vocal, it's my job to step out of my own emotions and my own opinions and support him, because he already has so many people who are not necessarily for him or finding ways to criticize him. So I think that if I can allow him to be able to be vocal about the things he wants to do, it will help him be motivated to move forward, because at the end of the day, he'll know, like, if at least my wife supports me, that's the number one support that I need. I think another way too is keeping him grounded, knowing that when he's at home, he doesn't have to be the person that he is in the community. He can kind of let his hair down a little bit, relax, be emotional, talk about things that he can't necessarily talk about to the community, because everybody's looking at him. Everybody's looking at everything he says, and I want him to be able to have an outlet, which would be me, to come home and be able to talk about things that make him scared or things that are frustrating, or get a different perspective, especially because I'm so new to what he does. I'm able to introduce new ideas from a different perspective in order to help him set himself apart.
So we made history together by protesting together the violent murder of Tashi Brown Farmer in the back of the Venetian at the hands of the Las Vegas police. We had a very interesting experience that day. That was not something that, and I worked in AIDS crisis time during the 90s, where it was very high level of community activism, involvement, protest. So that was really my background as far as protest. This was a different type of protest because it was really intelligently planned, put together, and targeted, which was to impact and raise awareness with visual, but also economic, right? We're slowing and cutting off the strip that day. That experience of watching my son and the other people who are like other children to me, Stretch, Trayshawn, Michelle is like a sister to me, Amani, all these people, that experience for me was very challenging because the police are arresting them in front of me. They're twisting arms, pushing forward, throwing them on the front of a police car. At one point, I thought they might taser my son and kill him in front of me. That was terrifying. And then having them be held for 8+ hours with no information. They were giving us nothing. We didn't know if, they were out in the desert being brutally beaten or killed. We didn't know. So that was probably one of the harder, protests that we've been involved with, because personally there was a stake in it for us. And there always is, but this was a little different, and then other things that happened to our family as a result of that, like being followed by the police for a while, and worrying about all of these people, like these are my family now, and now I'm worrying about all of them. It was a really powerful day. I know that the pictures of Dylan and Stretch went around the world, and people to this day, which amazingly we're 3 years later and still same things happening, but those pictures they really just speak volumes, right, of people willing to stand up and willing to be arrested for the life of another person to be considered human, which is insane that we have to keep having this conversation. But that day, I also had a great sense of pride in my family. We were all there. My daughters were there. We had people there from the surge group. We had a lot of people there. So I think that these type of situations are amazing because they can do so many things to bring awareness and change, but they take a toll. And so, there is a cost to a person being in this life. It's not an easy life to choose, but it is the right life.
To get arrested with Minister Stretch at 18 years old, it was many things. It was scary in certain ways because the unpredictability and uncertainty of what would happen to us when we were in custody. It was also, empowering in a sense, because I knew that what I was getting arrested for was for doing the right thing, and in the eyes of the opposition, that's, you know, some way, somehow you know, are really showing that you're not going to back down from what you stand for and what you believe in. And it was also, you know, stressful because it was an incredibly long period. Everybody in jail smells, but it was just and it happened so fast too. So kind of like, you know, it left me in shock in certain ways. But to sum it all up, I would say it was an honor. And you know, that day I really, you know, understood that, you know, someone like Minister Stretch was more than just, you know, a great friend and a big brother, but like really family. You know what I'm saying? That day we got a lot closer, and to this day, you know, I know that that's somebody that to the very end would have my back, would have my support. And I also realized that for me, that Minister Stretch was a person that I too would have his back and his support, you know, to the end. And, you know, overall, you know, I look at that day and look at, you know, my mindset then. I was much more, you know, I'm a bit hot-headed, but I was much more hot-headed then and thinking purely in the present and purely, you know, I was thinking about the totality, but I was thinking mostly in the present. And, you know, being away in college and being around different people and just bouncing ideas and reading and watching different documentaries and stuff like that since, and then having that experience to base things off of, you know, because still Tashee Brown Farmer's murder was unexcusable, and we're going through the same thing right now with what just happened with George Floyd of, you know, improper use of force by a police officer in murdering a innocent and unarmed black man. You know, I've just now being able to have that experience of my own, be able to look at things from a far bigger picture perspective and look at things, you know, as objectively as possible. But I feel like, you know, that day was executed because we had strategy, we had a plan, and we carried it out because we believed in that plan. And, you know, we hit them where it hurts, and we also showed that we weren't going to, you know, just roll over and let them, you know, bully us and stuff like that. So I just, overall, you know, that was one of the most impactful days of my life, you know, a day that I still remember pretty much every detail that happened. And, you know, it changed me for the better. So it's, you know, some people get caught up in the exterior of, oh, well, you got arrested. Oh, that's on your permanent record. But, you know, a lot of my heroes have records the size of Texas when it comes to the things that they were fighting for and what they got punished for by the people that are putting in proper place, you know, positions in place to punish them.
He's all about the community and the way he moves. So, like, I'm with him wherever he goes. You know, if he want to, quote unquote, go burn down the building, let's go do it. I'm going to support him, and I'm going to protect and serve him, make sure he's good. You know, I'm like a big brother to him. So if he's doing wrong, I'm going to step in. It's like, yo, you doing wrong, it's time to go. Or, you know, vice versa. He's like, Melvin, watch out for him. I already see him before you saw him.
Dr. Martin Luther King didn't start civil rights, you know what I'm saying, at a movement. There were others before Dr. King. Dr. King came out with a different approach of nonviolence. A lot of people that was before him that used the philosophy of iron for an iron, well, a lot of that philosophy was good too. You know what I'm saying? Because even what we're experiencing right now, you know what I'm saying, with the latest atrocity that's going on in Missouri, you know, people are saying, well, no, you shouldn't use violence. You shouldn't use violence. So you got, you know, 66 years or better of the same behavior. And so everybody's going to take offense unfairly in our community when the young guns just starts to shoot. And so you're the young gun. Minister Stretch is the young gun. And so you have a lot of people, they have a choice. Either you can roll with me or get rolled over. And let me just share with you too, as a non-native, we're very territorial. I've gotten a lot of flack as Sweet Lou Collins because I've accepted, quote unquote, outsiders into the community. So a lot of people have always asked, they ask me, why are you working with Minister Stretch? Or why are you working with this person? Or why are you working with that person? I'm working for the person who values my community like I value my community.
To see an 18-year-old say he want to be a basketball player, cool, I feel that, go for it. But to go far right from being a basketball player to an activist, and not just, he just didn't lace up his shoes and say, okay, I'm doing it. I think he actually looked at things and read things before he got out there and pushed. So I think he educated himself before he started educating others. So that's what I think what happened.
He's definitely reached out to multiple groups of different people, different races, religions, beliefs, and he's kind of just gave everyone this idea of equality and to be able to speak regardless of what you believe in or what you look like or what you may identify with. He still makes you feel heard, and he still makes you feel like you have a place here.
And so we ended up getting the march successful, and we blocked the street. The police had made several attempts to meet with us, or meet with Stretch, and they were unsuccessful with that. So they had set out to arrest him, mainly. In the process, when they came to arrest him, I actually asked the officer what was he doing. I grabbed his hand from my son, and because all I could see was them doing something other than arresting him. And he said, "You want to go with them?" And I said, "Yes." I didn't literally mean it like that. I thought they meant they were going to walk me over to the side and, you know, I would get to maybe calm somebody down or something, but they handcuffed me too and bounced me across the street, which seemed like the longest street I ever walked across in my life. And it was, I can laugh about it now, and it really wasn't even as scary as I thought it would have been, just the fact that they separated us. So us, we have a group called, an organization called All Shades United that Minister Stretch founded, and I was the national director of. And so there were 9 of us out there among the 300 people that were in the street with us, and they took all 9 of us. They separated him from us. They put us in the little police van, but they separated him. So my only fear was, what are they doing to my son? Once they allowed me to see him and put him in the same place we were, I felt a lot better. I'm very grateful that we did what we did, because we were able to get that officer arrested and charged with the murder of Tashi Brown.
Currently in Las Vegas, when I think about how Minister Stretch, how his ministry, the role that it can play in Las Vegas, he's the bridge. He's the bridge between my generation and the men who came before me, and his peers and the ones coming after him. He's that bridge. And the sooner Las Vegas embraces that, the better we will be. Because there's a generational gap between our understanding of how movements begin, what it takes for them to sustain, and so we need those types of bridges right now.
His persistence and his consistency to bring awareness to Black culture, Black revolution, and Black issues. He is very about us coming together as a people, whether it's at one of his gatherings or one of the rallies or his speeches, whether it's on Facebook or with his live. He is about bringing people together. And African people are communal by nature. We are sun people, we are village people. That is why when you go to a Black person's house, it's always, hey, come on in, take your shoes off and relax. But yet when you go to another ethnicity's house, you won't get that same reception, because by nature, from where we're from and how we are, we're communal people. And Stretch exhibits that, how he moves in the community. He is still young, and therefore he's not set in his ways. Most preachers or most ministers are born, bred Christian, and by the time they realize African culture is a thing and that's where we come from, they're embedded in the old ways and not open to the new ways. And one of the things that we like about Stretch is that he's always coming to our events, and he doesn't come with a judgmental mind. He comes with a mind to learn. He comes with a baby mind, and so that is a benefit to Stretch when he engages people who are not of the same Christian faith.
Flew at half staff as people arrived for the rally.
Kids, tell me what this is about today.
Today's on a visual, and a rally for police terrorism. We come together to remember the victims of police terrorism. We want unity, love, and justice amongst people, among black people and people in general. So this is a day to commemorate the lives that were stolen due to police terrorism and white supremacy.
You know, there's black people that's fallen, there's the white cops that's even fallen. All lives do matter. We're just trying to stop the violence right now.
Let it resound loud as the rolling sea. Yeah.
Hands up, don't shout, hands up.
One of the greatest things I liked about Minister Stretch was his advocacy and his willing to serve unconditionally and undeniably.
Minister Stretch's message from my perspective is he just a powerful human being. He understands what he wants, and he's an empowerer. He empowers me. I look at it as in when I see him, I want to do more. He inspired me every time I see this man. So I think he's inspiring others to do the same. Now, it could be done in all different ways, of course, but just the fact of him being out there and being the young person that he is, now I can see that the next generation is actually catching on.
From my perspective and the Muslim perspective, I would say that Minister Stretch is a breath of fresh air for true freedom, justice, and equality, especially for urban America. And to be that light like no one else have been. You know, Jesus was the light in the way. And, you know, so we have to understand sometime when we have brothers, young brothers, especially when they come from different faiths than ours, and they represent something that can illuminate and shake the world, and I think this young brother can. I see him as being a minister of his own church, and that's what I talked to him in regards of. And I think all the Muslims can see him because he works hand in hand with us. He can come to us just like another Muslim can say, well, I got a project going on, and we're going to support him 100% because we know he's standing on moral fiber.
This is somebody who has a message, is genuine, and is approaching this from, a really selfless perspective. And he's not in it for his own personal glory or anything like that. He's in it because this is what he believes and would die for. And, that's the type of mentality that I have.
I think a message that he would want to send is that we may all be different. We all have different struggles. We all identify differently. We all have different beliefs. But I think he wants us to understand that together we are stronger, we are more powerful together collectively, and we still have to acknowledge the differences that we do have, but together that we can be stronger and more powerful and speak out on multiple injustices that many of us face.
I think Minister Stretch's message is, what all shades united and what stretching for greatness. So in a sense, we all need to come together collectively for a better cause and, get there kind of by ourselves, as the black community. We need to get there. Like, we're tired of begging, tired of trying to be counterparts. We need to get our own things popping and, just start a revolution.
So if I could give one message about my husband, Minister Stretch Sanders, I would say to be patient with him. He is a human. He is somebody who took a stand and has enough courage to fulfill his calling from God and be able to fight for those who can't fight for themselves. And I think that too many times we're quick to judge, but we don't put ourselves in the shoes of those who are fighting for us.
For me, the message that Stretch gives to the world is coming together. Whether you're Muslim, whether you're Christian, whether you practice African spirituality, whether you don't practice any type of religious fashion, as long as you're black, he wants you to come together and be a one voice for the people.
The one message that I want to give it to the people. I want to give it to, because I talk to Stretch as much as I can. To the people, I want the people to really get to know his heart. Don't measure him because he stands 6'11". He has a heart, and his heart is for people to be treated fairly. Can he be loud? Can he be rough and tough? You better believe it. But you cannot stand on the front line and not be. I don't read scriptures where it paints the picture of David just being super soft and cuddly. To stand on the front line, you have to endure a lot. And so I want people to really understand he can't pull off. This isn't Clark Kent Superman. He's Superman every day, every moment, and the expectation is so great. So really just get to know him and get to know that, you know, he's really working overtime. He's working without pay. He's working without benefits. It's not even, I know people that do stuff for publicity. It's not even about publicity. He just has an amazing heart, and I want to encourage people to take the time to get to know it.
Why do I love Minister Stretch Sanders? You know, we have a very intimate relationship because we spent majority of our life together. Same bedroom, same home. You know, we did a lot of things together. Some things we don't speak on, some things we do. And just, we have a super brotherly bond that most people don't know about because they don't have the experience to know about it. Because it's kind of like a secret thing. It's a twin thing, essentially. You know, he always been there for me. Anytime I felt like I was the black sheep of the family, he always showed me love, always had my back. So, but one of my biggest support systems, so, yeah.
I think Minister Stretch's message to the world would be, stand up for what you believe in. Don't be afraid to use your voice. You have a voice for a reason. Stand up and use your voice. And all power to the people.
Brought so many sacrifices. I mean, first I could say with my mom being somebody who started this fight with me, I know that she has been heavily impacted in a great way because of who her son is. There's people who have bashed me in front of my mom and didn't know that we were related. And I really appreciate her for, you know, kicking this off and starting with me. Same for my siblings, you know, my sister Kia, my brother Vaughn, who also are impacted because they've been in places people have knew me, you know, and spoke negatively and sometimes positively. And so I thank them. And being somebody who's newly married, my wife has really taken a hard hit because this has been a really new life for her. But I think that we have both figured out a way to get through it because it's challenging. You know, my last relationship left me because of the work I do. And so when I met my wife, I was very nervous, you know, of like, okay, is this going to end negatively? But she has been a real trooper because people don't really realize, like, we praise Malcolm, we praise Martin, but we don't touch on Coretta, we don't touch on Betty, and like what the hell they went through and the hell they caught because of who their husbands were. You know, and my wife has lost, you know, opportunities of jobs, you know, have lost friends because your husband is racist, quote unquote. But I think that I commend her for just kind of sticking, you know, in the struggle and understand, you know, what the behind the scenes of what happens being a revolutionary.
I think that also our marriage has always had a bit of an adventure from the beginning because when we got married, it was actually a secret. We didn't tell anybody but my mother-in-law, Mama V, and my mom. And there were a lot of things that went into why we didn't tell anybody right away why we got married, but I think the number one thing that has been really hard for us as newlyweds, because we've only been married for a year and a half now. I think the hardest thing has been the fact that we do not have any privacy. And I think for me, being married to a revolutionary, that's really hard because, again, this was not like my ideal of what I thought I was going to have or who I thought I was going to marry. And it's really difficult because outside of our home, People see Stretch as so amazing, which he totally is, and they praise him, which they should because he is so amazing, but they don't think about like all the sacrifices that play behind closed doors and like the pressure that is put on him, which is put on me, which is put on us as a fresh married couple in order for him to be successful. People don't think about the fact that he has had to sacrifice jobs, which has impacted our household. He's had to sacrifice, you know, spending time with me or taking me on dates because he has to do something that involves community work. So it's a lot more than people think it is, but I stay because I love him, so we work it out.
You know, and I would like to say to anybody who is married and trying to balance community and be revolutionaries is you have to find time to balance yourself. And I think that was something that was really hard at first, was that I didn't really have a structure or order of how I conducted. I was so used to just running when I wanted to run. But it's just been rewarding, you know, and as my wife said, I've lost employment. I've had bosses fire me because of protests I had lined up. Like when we stormed on Fremont Street, I was fired 2 days before that protest, which I was all on the flyer because I planned it, organized it. And so I'm not just a protester, you know, it's different, you know. And so as I'm older and getting older, I'm learning that now that I'm married, I can still be the revolutionary and really involved, but I have to now think twice because it's not just about me. My wife is aware that I am prepared to give my life. Not saying take me, but I believe that you have to have a cause that's worth dying for. And that's a lot on a wife to have to prepare herself. Am I going to be a widow by 40? You know, but we both are heavily involved in church, and we believe in the scriptures that we believe in, and we know that at the end of the day, when you do the work of the Lord, the sacrifices that you make, you'll get the blessings for it.
I think too for us, like another reason that we make it work is because it was always hard, like from the beginning, because he is a Baptist minister and I am a member of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, or known as Mormon. So those are like two polar opposite religions in a lot of people's eyes, but you know, the longer that we were dating and the more that we got to know each other, we realized how many things that we actually do have in common. And so that kind of taught us from the very beginning that if you're willing to make something work, that it will. You just have to gain an understanding of the person that you're with and how you can equally support that person in their aspirations while maintaining yours.
Power to the people.